suffer from hay fever, get flushing cheeks after drinking red wine, do not react that well to canned fish or cured meats? Watch this video to learn what these reactions have in common and what to do about it. Histamine is the answer. It plays a role in all of the above mentioned symptoms. But what is it? Histamine is produced by the body as part of your body's defense system and is released when the body thinks there is a supposedly harmful intruder. Histamine acts like a bouncer at a club. It helps your body get rid of something that is bothering you. Anyone who has ever come into contact with stinging nettle knows the effects of histamine. The skin becomes itchy, red, swollen, and painful. People with allergies also recognize these same reactions. Histamine is released in response to potentially harmful substances, which can lead to different reactions. Rapid heartbeat, sudden low blood pressure, weak muscle tones, reactions of the mucous membranes, a runny nose, nasal congestion, irritation and sneezing. These you may know from hay fever. Reaction of the digestive tract like bloating, feelings of fullness, diarrhea, abdominal pain and constipation. But also reactions of the skin, an itchy or flushing skin, hives, eczema or swelling. And things like shortness of breath, nausea and vomiting. Histamine can also act as a neurotransmitter, a kind of a brain hormone that regulates mood. So, excessive brain histamine can lead to neurological problems like headache, migraine, dizziness, brain fog, anxiety, and not being able to fall asleep. And the latter because histamine is also a wakefulness brain hormone. There are 7 main causes that can elevate your histamine levels, causing the symptoms I just mentioned. Number 1, a histamine intolerance. So we already established that our body produces histamine. But did you know that it can also be found in certain foods? As a rule of thumb, the older the food, the more histamine it contains. So old cheese has more histamine than young cheese, and older or canned fish more than freshly caught fish. There are also foods that can trigger the release of histamine in the body, called histamine-liberating foods. A histamine intolerance is an intolerance for these histamine-rich and histamine-liberating foods. Examples are fermented products, alcohol, especially red wine, mature cheeses, canned fish, cured meats, tomatoes, avocado, chocolate, and vinegar. So, what happens when you eat these foods? Ingested histamine from what you eat and drink is broken down by the enzyme diamine oxidase, or DAO. DAO levels are highest in the gut and the kidneys, so any problems with these organs can affect histamine breakdown. Low levels of DAO can cause histamine levels to rise and potentially lead to histamine intolerance, or chronic low-grade inflammation. Histamine intolerance is a pseudoallergy. It can have the same symptoms as an allergy, but does not evoke an immune response. So we have concluded that DAO is important for the breakdown of histamine-rich and histamine-liberating foods. There are 5 reasons why your DAO enzyme might not be working properly. Let's very briefly go over them. Inflammation in the gut. Here most of the DAO enzyme is formed that breaks down the histamine. A lack of B6, copper, vitamin C, which are cofactors needed to make DAO. Alcohol, that blocks DAO and releases histamine. Certain medication can also block the DAO enzyme. And lastly, kidney problems may be another reason for the DAO not to work well, as it is one of the places highest in DAO. To recap, when having a histamine intolerance, you cannot tolerate histamine-rich or histamine-liberating foods due to a reduced function of the DAO enzyme in your gut, which can be caused by 5 different factors like a lack of certain vitamins or inflammation in the gut. Let's move on to number 2, a true allergy. True allergies can also cause histamine levels to be elevated. In this case, the immune system is involved, and antibodies are made against the allergen. So if you suspect a histamine intolerance, First, rule out allergies like pollen, dairy, gluten, and nuts, because the symptoms can be very much alike. Number 3 is histamine fish poisoning. This is a type of histamine overdose from eating spoiled fish. Symptoms resemble an acute allergic reaction and commonly appear 10 to 60 minutes after eating spoiled fish. The most common symptoms consist of skin flushing on the upper half of the body, rash, digestive complaints, and headache. I've had it a few times with canned fish. It looked a bit cloudy, but I thought, what the heck. Well, I learned my lesson. Let's go to the next one. Mastocytosis and MCAS. The latter is short for mast cell activation syndrome. Sounds difficult, I know. Let me explain. Let's start with what mast cells are. Mast cells are a type of white blood cells in which histamine is stored, located all over your body. When triggered, the mast cells release histamine and other inflammatory substances. In some cases, mast cells can become unstable, whereby they excessively release inflammatory substances like histamine. The mast cells become hyperresponsive. A lack of vitamin D could be one of the causes, as it is needed to maintain the stability of mast cells. This condition is called the mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS. Another condition is mastocytosis, in which mast cells grow in number and build up under the skin and/or in the bones, intestines, or in other organs. And the cause is not yet clear, but it is thought to be by a mutation in a gene. So now I will shortly mention the last 3. Number 5, heat releases histamine during an intense and prolonged workout and the sauna, for example. Number 6, an imbalance in the intestinal flora can lead to more histamine-producing bacteria. And lastly, excess histamine can increase estrogen levels and the other way around. So excess estrogen levels can also increase histamine levels. As you see, there are different ways that can cause elevated histamine levels. Note that some people can tolerate more histamine than others. Everyone has their own personal threshold. You only get symptoms when your threshold is exceeded. It's like an overflowing bucket. Some people have a bigger bucket than others. In case you have hay fever in spring, your body is very busy fighting pollen and your bucket is already half full. If you then also eat histamine-rich foods and drink alcohol that blocks the DAO enzyme and helps release even more histamine, your bucket may overflow. Let's summarize briefly what we have looked at. We learned what histamine is, what symptoms you can get from an excessive histamine release, and the 7 causes of elevated histamine levels. Lastly, we talked about everyone's own personal histamine threshold. So, what do we do with this information? It helps you determine where your symptoms come from. Is it from eating histamine-rich or histamine-releasing foods? Or do you perhaps have any other allergies that might cause the same symptoms? Are you deficient in vitamin B6, copper, or vitamin C that reduces the breakdown of histamine? Are you taking medication that blocks the breakdown of histamine? Do you drink a lot of alcohol? Check your food diary whether you are eating histamine-rich or histamine-liberating foods. Do your symptoms worsen when eating these foods? Check your histamine bucket. What is your own personal threshold? And when does your bucket overflow? Try to keep your histamine bucket as empty as possible. If you react strongly to histamine-rich or histamine-releasing foods, you could leave them out for about 2 to 4 weeks and see if your symptoms subside. Then you can slowly reintroduce them one by one. You can take a look at the PDF called Checklists to see what foods are low and what foods are high in histamine. Good luck.